I'm so happy you all made it. I thought actually Saturday morning will be a little bit of a challenge, but you are all here. So I'm Nora Theussen. I'm Country Holding Officer of ABB Switzerland, and I'm very proud actually to work for a company which puts well-being on the top of the agenda. So ABB, don't be so Swiss. Where are you? ABB team. And I'm very honored actually to moderate this session with such a distinguished panel and such an important topic, wellness of the professional you, and to be back at the summit. I co-chaired the host committee in 2019 in Switzerland, in Basel, and that's where I met our fantastic Irene. So the topic over the last couple of days, it already popped up several times. To stay healthy, and also in a mental way, has always been important, but I have the impression nowadays we are even mature enough to talk about it. So I'm looking forward to share best practices only if we stay healthy in a sustainable way, and we will be able to manage the uncertainties and the challenges of the future. So I'm happy to introduce our distinguished panel. So we have Barbara Martin Coppola. Give a warm welcome to her. She is CEO of Decathlon, the world's largest sports goods designer and retailer, the products which support our well-being. So she leads a global team of over 100,000 employees across 70 countries, 25 years of experience in general management and proven track record in various industries. So she worked for brands such as IKEA and Google. So you were Chief Digital Officer of IKEA, and you lived and worked in 9 countries. So a very global career. 2023, she was named as one of Fortune's top 100 most powerful women in business. Happy to have you here. Then we have Helena, tone in tone with the chair, Helena Jonsdottir. So I'm very proud that we have really a diverse panel. So she came from the north, from Iceland, so one of the rare Icelanders in the world. She's a clinical psychologist, founder and CEO of Mental, whose mission is to guide companies towards prioritizing the holistic well-being of their workforce, fostering a supportive and sustainable culture. Throughout her 25-year career, she had various managerial positions in the financial and consulting industry. Notably, she was manager of mental health for Médecins Sans Frontières. Very warm welcome. And in the middle, we have Salam Atoui, General Counsel Middle East, North Africa for EY, based in Dubai, grown up in Lebanon, and covering with her job 20 offices across 15 countries, creator of 12 Seeds, a simplified guidance and program for fostering personal well-being in community and the workplace, supporting with the initiative of Sangha Stories, mindfulness practices to children, and currently authoring the book of 12 Seeds. I'm happy to hear how you manage that all. So, Salam, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. All right. That is our session slides. And answering your question of how do I do all of this is actually my first slide. So the first 2 lines are my paid job. The rest of it is unpaid. And it's actually my passion work. And this is only a slide. What this slide doesn't show is actually that I have 10 children. 10 children, yes. 3 of them humanoids, i.e. humans, one of which needs my constant attention, i.e. my husband. 3 fish. 1 dog that doesn't let me have not one moment to myself, even when I wake up 3:30 in the morning to escape the rest of the world. 2 cats who hate each other, but more than that, they hate the dog. And the last addition to my family is an abandoned 3-month-old bunny that I found on my morning walk, and I brought back home because I couldn't leave it there. Turns out that it has a disease that needs 4 weeks of constant attention to add to my stress of every day. So in fact, that's my family bundle, if you will, and this is my work bundle. And I think a lot of you, if not all of you, carry both bundles with yourself, and you show up at work and you show up to your family in the same way. But how do we do this? From my experience as a mindfulness practitioner and throughout experiences in my life, I've figured out a few secrets that I'm going to share with you. But first, a story. So I don't know if you've heard of the story of the Don Quixote and the windmills. If not, I'm going to share it with you. So Don Quixote is a character from the 17th century Spanish epic novel by Cervantes, who you know the restaurant is named after that epic author, who's, by the way, he was a prisoner, so he's not necessarily your intellectual person, which is fantastic because he authored the first epic poem in the Western world. And the story goes about this man of lowest nobility who is fascinated by stories about knighthood and chivalry. And he reads all these books until he loses his mind. And when he loses his mind, he wakes up in the morning, he says, I'm a knight, and I'm going to serve my nation, and I'm going to revive the art of chivalry. And so he goes off, makes himself a costume, gets his weak horse, and then asks his neighbor to be his squire, his support, because obviously a knight needs a squire. And so he gets his old neighbor, who's a little bit wise, but he convinced him by saying, listen, when we go out, if I get land out of my encounters, you're going to get half of that, and so you can live happily and restfully for the rest of your life. So his squire, his name is Sancho Panza, actually, and they go along on their first adventure. So Sancho and his donkey, and Don Quixote de la Mancha, that's what he calls himself because he obviously has to have a particular fancy name for a knight. They go out on their first adventure. Lo and behold, they come to a field that has about 40 windmills. This is actually the true story of the windmills. This is a true picture of the Spanish windmills in the story. And so Don Quixote goes crazy. He's like, Sancho, look, fortune has given me 40 giants to encounter. I'm going to make them dead, and then we're going to get the land. And then Sancho looks and says, what giants? Those are windmills. But before he could even continue, Don Quixote, with his lance on his horse, attacks the first windmill, and with its sail, it breaks his weapon and throws the poor guy over with his horse to the distance. Sancho runs after his master. Master asks, sir, are you okay? I told you it was windmills. No, those were giants. They were turned into a windmill by the magician Evil, who deprived me of victory. But don't worry, we're going to go on our next adventure. And up he rises, and they go on their next adventure. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had to fight some Sanchos in my mind and some Don Quixotes. And this Don Quixote is actually a very happy character. So despite all the things that happen in his life, he is happy, but he's on the run. So for me to be able to know or to distinguish between Sancho and Don Quixote, both characters in my own mind, I'm sure we all have other characters going on in our minds, I have to first stop. So really the first principle of well-being is to stop. The practice of stopping. Just stop. and take a breather. Before you continue with your to-do list, never-ending to-do list, everything that we need to do, have you ever stopped? And when we stop, we take a breath. We bring our mind to our body. There's nothing to do, nowhere to be for a few moments. And then we can scan. We can scan our mind. We can scan our body. We can scan our spirit. This guy you see there, it's how I feel most of the time. But actually, I'm happy. I'm tired sometimes, but I'm passionate about what I do. And then inside, a lot of us, you find that same person. But if somebody looks at you, they find you fresh like a daisy, and you're ready to attack the day. And that is because you're able to attend, or they have practices that you figured out in order to get your well-being. So first, stop. 2, scan. And 3, diagnose. Categorize the source of your stress. If you diagnose the source of the stress, then you attend to it. So the sources of stress could be 2. A, life's necessary suffering, right? Like sickness, old age, death. Those are necessary in life. Suffering is going to happen in life, right? And there are other sources of stress, and those are not unnecessarily necessary in our life, which we'll tackle in a moment. For the first one, what do? If there's an external event or something that's happened that has affected me and I have no control over that, a lot of us will actually just push on and continue. But in fact, what we need to do is allow ourselves to rest. Allow ourselves to rest. Adjust your schedule. It's okay not to do everything you're supposed to do. It's okay not to be perfectionist of everything at work that you need to do. It's okay to minimize commitments that you need to do for that phase to attend to yourself. Imagine you have a young child within you, a little girl, and she's tired, or she's had this trauma, or she's had to listen to something that's very affecting her. And so you would actually tell her to rest. But instead, many of the professional women, they just cheer on. They just cheer on everybody else, and they cheer on themselves without having a moment to rest. So self-compassion is a big one. We're unfortunately not so good in self-compassion. How compassionate? If you listen to yourself talk to yourself, we're not necessarily the kindest. We're not necessarily the kindest. What about the other source of stress? How do we diagnose a source of stress? So in the 12 seeds, and I'm just going to go quickly through 7. I'm just going to show you the slides of two slides of 7 seeds, but we're just going to, due to time constraints, we're just going to go over 1 or 2. If you read these sources of stress, or if you read these misalignments, so I'm going to read, for example, I'm going to read the first one, if I can see it. The well-being seed. Yeah, the well-being seed. So if you find under the well-being seed that there's a sort of misalignment, that you don't take care of your body, the statement is, I bring my mind home to my body. How often do you do that? And if you don't do that, that's a source of misalignment. And that source of misalignment causes stress on the body that eventually lead to stress in your life. So we're talking about attending to the sources of the stress. And these are 5, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 sources of stress. I'm not going to go over these. Awareness seed is definitely one. So if you're not aware of how your body's feeling at this moment, then there's a lack of awareness. That means you've let it go. You've used your body and abused it in a way that it has never been given some time to rest. When I close my eyes and I scan my body, I'm able to actually discern, am I feeling okay? Do I need to rest? Do I really have to run today to do all these errands? So once you attend to one of the sources of stress, there will be a flow of energy that wasn't available to you before because it was locked up in the stress. The body contains the stress until it's faced and released. This is the rest of the seeds, and I'm happy to send these across after the panel. So you diagnose the source. What then? I say, yes, my body needs attention. I've spoken to some of you this morning, and I was amazed at what options you give yourself to find your wellness. Apart from curiosity and being attentive to other realms of things that you're passionate about outside your professional work, I saw some people, Chris, I don't know where you are, but she told me she does bird watching. There you are. Bird watching. It's fantastic. Whatever you find a source to be able to rest your body, then find it. Now, if you diagnose yourself like I'm not being aware enough, I'm not being mindful enough, maybe meditation is one way to help. If I'm finding that I'm striving, for example, I had a trouble with being a perfectionist and somebody who wants to hear compliments about my work, and therefore I'm always achieving. And I figured out that it's actually, an insight from a therapist, is that I got it because of a pattern of a childhood that I had to please my parents to be loved, or so I thought in my mind, and it continued on in my life. And when I had that insight, in fact, I did less work more smartly, and I became promoted to a partner. So finding and diagnosing where the stress is coming from can actually push you forward in life. Slide before last. You know, this person is a happy person. I know Don Quixote looks like he's battered of life, but he's still happy. Life has its ups and downs. And by the end of the novel, in fact, what happens is Don Quixote declines from illusion to reality, while Sancho ascends from reality to illusion. In a way, this is what we want to strive for. We want to strive for our wisdom to become reasonable. At first, it's reasonable, and then we want to strive for it to go crazy. We want our craziness to go reasonable, but we want our wisdom to choose the crazy in our lives, to choose what we want to do. All of us here are visionaries. We lead. We've been through a lot. We're survivals. And so finding that crazy that you want to do in life is something that we want to strive for. We don't want crazy to lead us. We want to choose our crazy. The best thing that I can end with is that the one thing that we really do well is love. As women, we really are carriers and holders of love. We're channels of love. And so the one thing that we always focus on and should always focus on, am I loving myself enough? Am I loving everybody around me enough? And they're interconnected. If you love yourself, you cannot not love everybody around. And so with that, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Can you hear me? Like this, maybe? It's better? Yeah. Wow, you are so many and you're so early. I love that. Thank you so much for being here and showing the interest in what we're doing here. And thank you, Nora, for your kind introduction. Now, this is my first summit. I love it. The energy, the smiles, all the motivation, and all the questions and curiosity. I'm going to come back for sure. Next year, I hope. Now, let me read you something that really resonates with me, and I will tell you why later. Hang on, I'm just going to get the gist of this. Yes. So, there is a coming revolution in the way companies and organizations have to think, talk, and deal with the mental health and well-being of their employees. Mental health in the workplace is becoming one of the most important issues in business today. Now, as I reflect on these powerful words, I'm reminded of a moment in my journey where I decided to become a mental health at work consultant. Yeah? Stumbling on this article from McKinsey, the words resonated really deeply with me, speaking of coming revolution and how companies need to deal with the mental health crisis and their part in it. But it wasn't just the broader mental health issue that caught my attention. I had witnessed firsthand how mental health in the workplace remained a taboo subject, a personal responsibility of the employee, and, hang on, I'm just, Yeah, sorry, rather than an organizational concern. Yeah? So fueled by a deep conviction that this needed to change, I made it a choice to leverage my experience to start a company dedicated to addressing this critical gap. So, with that, I embarked on a mission to help managers and leaders integrate mental health into their core agendas. And so my company, Mental Consulting, in Iceland, was born. So we are now a group of a few amazing women and growing, well, not the women, the company growing, working tirelessly to empower organizations to create environments where employees feel valued, supported, and able to flourish. Now, but our commitment extends beyond our approach and international standards that we are following, all what we're doing every day. We are deeply passionate about advocating for mental health in the workplace, about putting mental health on the agenda, and to work to foster a culture where mental health at work is openly embraced. So, the problem is, when we started and we introduced this concept of mental health at work, we were asked or told by many that this is an unusual subject, even a negative one. The common belief was that mental health is something employees should manage in their private time, outside of working hours. And we are still very much confronted with, I don't know, barriers of taboos and myths and stigmas and all that. Even our own prejudice is, preventing us from talking about this in a real way. And there we are, ladies. We need to put it firmly on the agenda and achieve the objectives that mental health and mental disorders are talked about in an open and honest way. And there we are, all of us, ladies, we are in the leading roles, my dear fellow leaders here. But it's not only about daring and being socially responsible, of course. We must also consider the broader implications of staying silent about mental health in the workplace. When mental health concerns are overlooked or ignored, our own or the others around us, the consequences can actually be serious. From increased absenteeism to higher HR costs, the toll of untreated mental health problems in the workplace extends far beyond the individual, affecting the entire workplace ecosystem. And addressing these issues is not just a moral application or a thing to do, it is a strategic necessity. And we need to act before these challenges escalated into a crisis. Now, let me take you on another road. Before we are even ready, to start talking about mental health at work, we need to talk about and make sure we are taking care of our own mental health, right? So, let's talk about what is called the mental health continuum. Mental health is not just about being okay or not being okay. It's not an either or. I'm not either depressed or not at all. It doesn't work like that, yeah? So, when we are in the orange zone, we are just surviving. With worry and anxiety creeping in, our sleep starting to break, and we start to withdraw socially. Sometimes, of course, we're just excelling or thriving and flourishing and everything is flowing and we're just, really good. But when we are in the orange zone, if those symptoms are left unchecked, this can lead us to struggling, where mental health issues start to interfere with our daily lives, and even crises where we are overwhelmed and exhausted. And believe me, we don't want to be there, and we don't want our fellow coworkers to be there either. So why am I talking about this? Because having this knowledge can help us recognize the symptoms early on, both in ourselves and in those around us, guarding us against costly, both human and financial consequences. So, hang on. Yes. But much like on a plane, and this is especially for us ladies, we are told to secure our oxygen masks before helping others. Our mental health journey needs to follow the same principle. We need to start prioritizing our own mental health, on putting our own mental oxygen masks on first. This way, we not only strengthen ourselves, but also become better allies and role models for those around us concerning our mental health journey. I like to think of this like, I don't know, it's a funny, bear with me for a moment. It's like being a chef in a kitchen, mixing up ingredients, I don't know, to make a delicious dish. So in this final chapter, I want to explore the basic ingredients and then the juicy ones in the mental health. And this has been slightly talked about by Salam before, but I want to repeat a few things. So the first one being self-knowledge, second, self-compassion, and third, self-care. So let's start cooking. Self-awareness. Knowing ourselves is paramount to navigating our mental health journey. It is important to pay attention to early signs that our well-being might be declining. These signals can manifest in many ways. Might be changes in our emotions, the way we behave, the way we are thinking, racing thoughts or negative, and physical sensations, even personal traits can be changing. These are the first signals normally. Whether it's persistent sadness or sudden changes in energy, these cues can offer valuable insights into our current mental state. And by being aware of these signs, we can actually intervene early, remember the continuum, preventing difficulties in staying on course for a fulfilling life, hopefully. Now, second, self-compassion. Moving on, it lies at the heart of our journey, and we are not very good at it, especially women. Self-compassion is about daring to embrace our own vulnerabilities and prioritizing our own well-being above everything else. It means no more sacrifices, no more shifting from constantly being taking care of others and setting others, before us. And shifting to preserving ourselves. And the thing is, we need to challenge the assumption that overwork and, burnout are badges of honor. Because they are not. It's just not cool anymore. So if you're there, we need to start shifting. We need to start treating ourselves with the same compassion we extend to others. Lastly, self-prioritization. We need to put our self-care first. We need to make sure that we have both the time, of course the energy, to care about ourselves. And there are some practical steps. First, we need to make sure that our self-care practices are actually working for us. And of course, we need to set some boundaries. We need to focus on our physical health with exercise, sleep, nutrition. I bet you knew that. Thirdly, we need to make time for hobbies, to recharge. And lastly, remember that seeking support is not a weakness. It's actually a really, really, really big strength. And if we don't do it, So we need to make this commitment, prioritizing our own mental health, being the good role models for our, the ones we are leading. Now, coming to the cooking again. Let me tell you a little secret, well, two secrets actually. When it comes to mental health, one size does not fit all. What works for you doesn't work for you and not for me. So we need to figure out for our own personal secrets. But the other little secret, have you heard about serotonin? Serotonin, right. It is a magical ingredient in our mental health recipe. This brilliant neurotransmitter, in our brain works wonders, boosting our mood and overall well-being in general. And here's the kicker. We often think that serotonin is a constant thing or something we can only change with medication or with doctors or I don't know. The guess is, but the kicker is, we got it all wrong. The fact is that engaging in pleasurable activities, disconnecting, doing what we love, is the biggest serotonin booster out there. And let me tell you, knowing this is a game changer, and knowing how to do it is a game changer. I have found that, that knowing what works and what doesn't, for me personally, is key to keeping those serotonin levels flowing. First, I normally start by talking about what to stop doing, what doesn't work for me, what is not recharging my batteries, yeah? I can let you in on, I start to eat junk food. I start to, sit on the sofa, scroll mindlessly through things. I stop to talk to people. I stop, socializing. So these are the activities that are not working for me and are not doing anything for my serotonin levels. onto the good stuff, the things we need to do more of. For me, those are the activities like going for a hike in nature, catching up with friends in real life, planning something fun, exciting, getting lost in a good book. Yeah? These are the magical serotonin boosters that never fail me. For you, it might be something very different. It could be organizing your collection of stamps. I don't know what works for you. Playing in your garden with your grandchildren, whatever. Whatever works for you. Here's the secret spice in the sauce. I make sure I write these things down. The things I need to do more of and the things I need to do less of. And I take the time when I'm actually feeling good to know, wait, now I'm feeling good, I'm doing A, B, C, D. That must mean that these are my serotonin boosters. And I jot down the things that I've stopped doing. And of course, on the opposite. I write I write the things down that I'm stopped doing so I can know this is my recipe. Because by knowing and recording what works and what doesn't, I am setting myself up for a serotonin success, getting those serotonin levels flowing. So, I have a small challenge before you go home. Well, after you come home. Grab a pen, select a week when you're flourishing, when you're actually in a really good state, and start crafting your own recipe for a serotonin-rich and happy life. And keep it visible for you to see. I keep it on my fridge. So every day I'm not feeling good, I know these are the things that I need to put on my agenda today or this week to get my serotonin levels up. So, muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. Thank you for reminding us to put on our oxygen mask first. And now I'm very curious to hear from you if you're living in nice countries and what you learned throughout your career.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'll try again for those to reconnect with the session. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Love it. So we're speaking about the well-being of women, our well-being. So how are you feeling this morning? You feeling energized, positive? A bit jet-lagged? I'm not going to ask you a show of hands, but please do take a moment for reflection. How is your life? Are you doing enough to re-energize your body? Are you setting aside enough time for self-care? We women often put ourselves last. We often feel guilty if we don't put our kids, our partner, our work first. This mindset and the expectations of society result in a staggering gender disparity. An OECD study has found that when it comes to unpaid responsibilities at home, women work 2 to 10 times more than men. It's called doing the second shift. Now, I'm lucky. My husband and I do share responsibilities equally. And still, whenever I did put my own well-being, my social life first, I felt guilty and I felt selfish. But here's the thing. Putting others first is the wrong priority for us and for them. You all know the announcement, and Helena said it really well. When you're sitting on an airplane, when the oxygen masks are released from the panel just above you, make sure your own mask is correctly fitted before helping anyone else. And that is exactly the thing. Only if you help yourself first are you fit and able to help the others. So, how can we look after ourselves? Well, if you really want to take care of your physical and mental health, then sport is a good starting point. I don't say this just because I'm the CEO of Decathlon or because the World Health Organization sees movement as one of the biggest factors in staying in good health. I also say it from my own personal experience. Like many other women, it took me quite some time to give myself the permission and the freedom to take care of myself. Today, I make sure I find time to move and to reconnect my body and my mind. The result has been amazing. So this is what I want to discuss with you all today. The psychological barriers that prevents us from taking care of ourselves, the societal barriers that have held us back for centuries, and the incredible impact that the physical activity can have in our day-to-day lives. The first barrier is how sport is presented, as if it's all about peak performance and power workouts. But the power of sport is rooted in simply movement. Whether you do yoga, or you do boxing, or simply go for a walk around the park to clear your mind, movement is sport. But for decades, women were excluded from the world of sport. Here's a story that actually shocks me. After the Olympics of 1928, women were banned for more than 30 years to compete in races of more than 100 meters. Why? As the New York Evening Post put it, the women looked wrenched at the finish line, far too sweaty and out of breath. And so, the Olympic Committee removed the event until 1980. Our world has changed quite a bit. 45% of Olympic competitors are women. And more broadly, 72% of mothers are in employment. And yet, society is still stuck in the old ways. Women continue to do most of the work at home. And while expectations are high, we have been set up to fail. Choosing not to have kids? They say, you're weird, you're missing out. Trying to balance work and family? Well, you cannot have it all. And having kids but choosing to stay at home? You're not ambitious enough. And if on top of all of this you prioritize yourself, then you are deemed to be utterly selfish. All this pressure, all these responsibilities, expectations, they harm our health and they harm our well-being. It's shocking, but we shouldn't be surprised. Women are twice as likely as men to experience burnout. The demands on us women create this culture of sacrifice. The demands on us women, it's a false belief, I believe, that we need to choose between career, family life, and personal well-being. Little wonder that only 30% of women consistently prioritize healthcare compared to 50% of men. Now, I've been there. I was in a succession of high-pressure jobs, and I put my kids first, my husband first, my work first. I did not take care of myself. But one day, however, I had a really tough day at work. And to shake it all off, I went home and for just 10 minutes, I danced to a YouTube video. And I made this a daily habit. And to build on it, I started walking around the company campus, and just once a week, I do a Zumba class. For many years now, every Thursday, instead of being at work at 9 a.m., I'm going to a Zumba class instead. And honestly, at first it felt illegal. But what a rush! The newly endorphin boost, newfound friendships, they enrich my life. From the start, I was more motivated at work, happier in my day-to-day life. Making movement part of my daily routine started a transformation in my physical and my mental well-being. Today's sport is a cornerstone of my happiness. If there is a day when I don't move, I feel out of balance both in my body and my mind. And here's what I've learned. Prioritizing self-care isn't selfish. It allows all of us to be our best selves for our benefit and the benefit around us. The power of sport, these quick bursts of energy, don't need pricey memberships or fancy equipment for that. It just needs movement. There's plenty of evidence that even brief bursts of daily activity can prevent many illnesses. There are many positive ripple effects in my own life. When I exercise, I don't want to eat chocolate after that. And the next day, I feel better already. I feel proud of myself. And so I'm ready to go again. Through movement, I've started a loop of self-care. Movement and sport have improved my relationships, boosted my energy, and enhanced productivity at work. So, here's the question. How did we reach this point today where both women and men believe they can't spare 10 minutes to exercise? Seriously, who can argue that they don't have a few minutes to spare between waking up and going to bed? Scientists tell us just 30 minutes of exercise can reduce stress by 70%, boost happiness by the same amount, and even increase productivity and creativity by 50%. Because remember, sport is not only about competition, it's about personal enjoyment. Whether you take a stroll in the park, have a bike ride with the kids, or spend a moment on mindful breathing. We at Decathlon know how important it is to make sport yours. To be active, to connect with your carefree inner child, to stop taking yourselves so seriously. Now, I'm telling you all of this because I want to encourage you to take care of yourself. But more importantly, I want to help the people around you to take better care of themselves. You are all leaders in government, in business, in society. So please, get the world moving. Plant the seeds for well-being. Create the right conditions and give your teams the space, the time, the opportunity to be active, to do sports, and lead by example. You will feel better. and you will prove to the women and men around you that it is okay. No, it's great to move. It's great to look after your health and well-being. Whether that's some activity during lunch break, more intense workout like my Zumba classes, or even just a quick walkabout to refresh your body, to refresh your mind. I realized the transformative power of sport long before I joined Decathlon. Now I hope that you are or will get moving yourselves. Not because you and I are selfish, but because we take care of ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barbara. We got some couple of minutes for one question. So I'm very happy to have you here. And I would be very interested. We learned to put ourselves first, to prioritize ourselves. That's what we learned from the three of you. So, but Barbara, you're managing over 100,000 employees across 70 countries. So how do you see the responsibility also of the employer with regard to well-being?
I believe the employers create a frame that can enable employees to give themselves the permission to dare taking care of themselves. Selfishly, as an employer, this is about productivity. More happiness lead to better work, lead to better connections, and lead to better network. And it's all good for the company at the end. But it's also the right thing to do. People are at the center of the workspace. Taking care of people means taking care of your company and building a better society at the end of the day. So creating space, as Helena mentioned, for whatever works for every person, be physical, be mindset and mindfulness, practice breathing, connecting socially, whatever it is really, really important. It's almost like slowing down, you can actually accelerate even more. So practices, processes do help, and especially leading by example. When the top of the company is working endlessly and does not exemplify actually the Zumba class on Thursday, then it does have an effect all over the company.
Thank you very much. I mean,